Hey everyone, welcome to another video. Now today I'm doing something that's very unique, very special. I haven't really done this before on my channel, but I was thinking to myself, this will make awesome content. And regardless guys, give me some feedback. If you don't like it or if you do like it, let me know so I can either do more of it or just never do it again. Now, for those of you who keep up to date with my channel, you may realize or may know that I've actually started doing one-on-one coaching again. Now, I actually did a session with one of my clients from the Kangaroo tier of my Patreon this morning. Now, this guy was around a platinum diamond player for the past few seasons. He's been a bit hard stuck and he's a Vlad player. Now, I get this question a lot from you guys in the community saying, Curtis, I know how to manipulate my wave. I know how to win lane. I'm very confident on my champion. I usually solo kill my opponent, but I just can't carry. My teammates always feed. I don't know what to do. Now, the guy after this session, he said to me, Curtis, I am so thankful and I'm so grateful that I was able to do this session with you because I had no idea how much I was doing wrong in my gameplay, and now I know what to focus on. So, and I thought to myself, Curtis, if this guy is having the same problems, I guarantee you there will be so many mid players out there who's pretty much going over the same mistakes and they don't really know how to fix it. So what I'm actually going to do now is go over the first 15 minutes of this VOD. And I didn't actually record the session, so I couldn't just upload it. So I thought I'd go over it again by myself and share with you some of these gems. I really think they're important for all of you to understand. And they're not Vlad specific, guys. Yes, some of it's a little bit Vlad specific, but 95% of it is just raw mid fundamentals that apply to every single champion in the mid lane. All right, guys? So this was actually a VOD of Vlad versus Gragas mid. Yes, it's a little bit of a weird matchup. That's not the point here. And again, I'm not going to go over the Vlad specifics in terms of, you know, as much of the micro that I did cover with him. I really kind of want to get into the nitty gritty, but there's a few things I do want to highlight within the laning phase as we go on into this VOD. Now, when I was watching this VOD, guys, I was thinking this guy really knows how, I mean, CSing, you know, his CSing does need a little bit of work, and that is something I did mention with him, and especially as a champion as Vlad, you can't afford to miss CS, because already you're not really contributing to the team in terms of gank setup, in terms of roaming, in terms of, you know, early skirmishing, etc. So you really got to make sure that you get to your spikes as soon as possible. But anyway, I don't really want to go into too much of the Vlad specific stuff, but when I was watching this VOD, I was thinking, well, this guy really knows how to manipulate the wave. He was thinning the wave, he was weaving in auto attacks, his CSing was decent, he knew that he didn't really want to push up against the Graves, and he knew that he really couldn't contest 2v2 jungle because of a Mumu Vlad versus Gragas Graves. So what he was doing, he was really thinning the wave quite well. Staying healthy in the lane, weaving in auto attacks, keeping the wave in a really nice juicy pocket outside his tower. Now, this was all great, and when I was looking at this, I was like, cool, so he's a platinum player, the wave manipulation is, you know, should be a given. Most platinum players really should understand how to thin the wave, coherent with their identity of their champion as well. He knows as a Vlad player, he doesn't really want to make himself vulnerable in the early laning phase, and he's quite happy to minimize this early portion of the lane. Now, one thing I do want to cover, guys, and one thing that you guys might be doing as well, and it's not really a Vlad specific, is that if you do want to thin the wave and keep it, you know, and you're versing any basically high cooldown champion, whether it's Vel'Koz, Xerath, Victor, Gragas mid, which is a weird one, but any of these champions, generally they have a hard time breaking freezes, especially if you stand outside the wave. Now, one thing I've noticed when coaching a lot of people is they do this. They stand in the middle of the wave and they get hit by the person's AoE, and that allows the person to potentially get the minion wave into tower as well. So your job, if you want to keep the wave in this nice little pocket, is to stand outside the wave. Don't get hit. Don't incentivize the person to queue the wave and you. That's like extreme value for these people. But anyway, again, these are all small micro details which really aren't the crux or the core of this guy's problem. So as I was watching, I was thinking, you know what? This stuff's all good to optimize, but at the end of the day, this is not the difference between platinum and diamond. I mean, this is all lane stuff that he can work on over time. He can see it through my videos. He already knows a little bit more about You know, he knows how to manipulate the wave. It's just all micro stuff that, you know, I can work with him slowly over time, but that's not the difference. I was waiting for something bigger to come about. Again, we did talk a little bit about warding as well. One thing I did say to him, and something that you guys might want to get a bit of value from, is that even if the wave is here and you're not necessarily pushing in, you can still duck out in between the waves. Maybe you might miss one caster creep or one melee creep, but it is very valuable knowing that Graves is going to do a bot to top clear to ward river, or ward the corner of the ramp, or even dot bush at around between 230 to 240. He could have easily done this. Like, he could have just ducked out right now, got a ward in the river. That would give him one side to lean on. And even though he knows Graves is top side, his team doesn't know that. You can expect that most players in the game don't know jungle tracking. So warding, remembering guys, warding isn't just about your 1v1, even if you know where they are. It's about the rest of your team, giving your jungler information, giving your top laner information, giving your bot lane information. It can help everyone else when you spot out the enemy jungler. But anyway, the lane was going quite fine. He gets a decent ward off. It's not the best timing, but again, he's platinum. I don't really expect hardcore jungle tracking till around diamond anyway, especially because he's a bit low platinum at the moment as well. But anyway, things were going quite fine. He was taking decent trades in lane. He was staying quite healthy. His CSing wasn't too bad. He knew his wave manipulation was decent. And, you know, he was trying to spot out the jungler here. He put a ward on the side where he thought the jungler was, which was not bad. So everything was going quite well. No big red flags yet, really. I mean, there's small optimizations, but just no big red flags. Now, the lane's in a bit of a lull state. He knows Graves is topside thanks to his ward, his great ward in the dot brush. Now he's able to lean heavily onto the bot side of the lane, completely fine. Takes a bit of a trade from Gragas, but still he's thinning the wave, keeping the wave in a really awkward pocket, knowing that one of the strengths of Vlad is that you can actually make people go and one of your biggest advantages is that you have the resource advantage over any champion that has mana. So the longer the laning phase goes, the better it is for Vlad. And he's doing a very, very good job of this. He's identified that Gragas is going He's thinning the wave, keeping in this nice pocket. He's doing a great job at minimizing and getting to his key power spikes. So he's doing a really good job. Beautiful. Another nice Q. Auto attack. Proxy's phase rush. Great. Auto attack as well. He's doing a really good job here. And again, guys, I want to give context for this VOD. I don't want to just jump to the key points. I want to give a bit of context. Show this guy knows his stuff. He knows how to manipulate the wave. He's assessing that this guy has no mana. He's walking past the wave. He's understanding the enemy's jungle location. He really knows. He knows his stuff, guys. Like he's done some really decent. He's done some decent stuff so far. My only criticism here was that when his top ward died on top dot, I said to him, I said, you know what? You can assume that Graves, most likely, after he's done topside, it's around 5 minutes, he's going to be pathing back onto his bot side to get those Krugs and Raptors. What you can actually do, as you are zoning the Gragas here, he could actually move a ward onto top ramp, or even onto Raptors, if you feel like Gragas can't fix the wave. Because, you know, you can basically guarantee that Graves is going to be on the bot side of the map any second. And that will give you plenty of room to play very aggressive in the lane. Now, this is where the first gem, guys, comes into play. What do we see? I want to play it out first, and then we'll go back and rewind. Flash Ignite. Gets a kill here. And they get kind of cleaned up here. Now, let's break this down. Now, what do we see when I see this? And this is what I talk about reverse engineering the solution or some of the problems. What do we see? Amumu's invading the jungle. You can see on the minimap here, Amumu's invading the jungle onto these Raptors. Gragas is very Vlad's actually building a wave. Vlad's in a really good spot. Has Ignite, Flash, everything. Gragas can't really contest too much. But what do we see? Vlad has not panned his camera a single time onto this Amumu. Now, this is absolutely game changing, guys. Now, there's two options basically what's going to happen here. This Amumu is either going to path into here to, he maybe to trying to quickly deny these raptor camps, knowing that he has a bit of temple and graves, I believe. Or this Amumu is actually looping around the ramp and looking for a gank onto this Vladimir. Now, your job as a mid laner is to always be up to date and complement the jungler's decisions. It's a dance between the mid and the jungle. It's two partners. One partner isn't more dominant than the other. It's constantly each person on the team complementing each other. So you're, as a jungler, ideally at the highest level, you're complementing laners. And as a mid laner, you're complementing your jungler. Now, a lot of the time, people don't understand how important it is to play around your jungler and adapt to the situation. This is what I talk about, versatility and flexibility as a player, your ability to soak in information. And my job as a coach is to say, all right, what pieces of information is this guy not considering, and how is this influencing his decisions? Now, in this moment, he hasn't panned his camera once onto the Amumu, so he actually has no idea. I actually don't even think he has any idea about what this Amumu is doing. And I believe his default response was thinking, oh, Amumu's in the area, so I'm actually going to path over here, which is going to force Gragas to go down here, which is going to make him vulnerable. But that's actually not what Amumu's intention was. Amumu has literally started the Raptors. So you need to adapt. You know that Amumu, right now, given the way this Amumu is actually playing the game, he's not looking for a mid gank. He would have passed straight behind him, and the opportunity was missed anyway. So what happens here, because Vlad is not panning his camera and not understanding the situation, he's actually becoming a massive detriment to his jungler right now, because look, he's pathing on the opposite side as far away as possible from Amumu, which is actually giving Gragas the inside track into collapsing onto this Amumu, allowing Gragas to get to the fight first, and then this skirmish becomes really, really scrappy. Now, what I recommend for you guys, one really great thing is that you should be, and one thing I've recently been implementing myself is I put jungle on MB1, mouse button 1, instead, because I find the F keys incredibly hard. The F keys I find are so far away from my QWER that it's not viable for me to use. So I use MB1, MB2 as jungle and top, and then I use T, because it's right next to R and it's really easy to use. I use T as my panning onto my AD. And they're the three roles that you need: jungle, top, and AD. Or you could do support. Either are completely fine. Now, what would be different in this situation, if this Vlad was aware of what Amumu was doing right now, what he would be doing is pathing here. He would actually be pathing his character downwards, not letting Gragas get to this fight, zoning Gragas from the area, ensuring that Amumu's going to get these Raptors, and if a fight breaks out, he's going to get there first, and Gragas is not going to let Gragas get to the fight whatsoever. And this is what we call situational awareness, but more importantly, jungle awareness, guys. And this is going to be one of the key themes that I'm going to highlight throughout this VOD, is the lack of jungle awareness that this player had, which was becoming, and he was actually becoming a detriment to his team, and he wasn't adapting his gameplay, purely because he just wasn't aware of what the team and what the jungler was doing. So this was the first key mistake, because what would happen here, right? If he would have been at the fight first, Gragas would be like over here scared, Vlad would be down here, Amumu would get out scot-free, probably getting those Raptors and running out, and already this fight wouldn't have happened. Now, this wasn't a completely terrible situation, because Vlad again got the kill, and maybe Vlad could have maybe walked out, assessed the situation that the bot lane was coming first. Yes. But we're talking about things that are replicable, and the thing that is replicable when I see this play is the lack of jungle awareness from this guy, and literally the camera. He's not panning his camera to know what his jungler's doing. This is what I mean by, this is why you need the point of view from OBS to really understand what sort of information this person is processing. Now, the next mistake, he actually didn't even buy a pink here, which is, again, all the small micro, or the small little details that do add up. And my theory of League of Legends, guys, is it's all the small things that change or create a specific a specific thing happening in the game. So, literally, Vlad's positioning in the lane changed or altered what happened. And the way I said, it's like a tree, a decision tree. If you do this, then a whole different reality is going to be opened up. It's kind of like an alternate reality, like some weird, crazy space thing. I don't know. I'm getting a bit too philosophical there. But anyway, he comes back to lane here, and obviously I'm talking to him about summoner assessment. Vlad doesn't have ult or ignite or flash, so you're very, very useless. So right now you need to minimize, you need to adapt the way you're playing your waves, you need to adapt to what skirmishes you want to take, etc, etc. I'm talking all the Vlad stuff. But one thing I want to highlight that's more of a mid fundamental here is when you're coming back to lane, guys, a big mistake I see with a lot of players is that they go from, all they're thinking about right now is the wave, which is great. That's a good thing to be thinking about. But what you should think first is vision. Ideally, you would have a pink, and the first thing you do when you get back to lane is ward. You don't manipulate the wave, then ward. You ward, then manipulate the wave. And look what actually happens, guys, as a result. He comes back to lane, sorry, knowing that he's much weaker at the moment. He doesn't have his flash, ignite, or ultimate. He knows that he wants the wave on his side because he wants to minimize quite a bit. His decision was to freeze outside his tower. And look what happens. Right now, he's got the wave in a nice little spot for himself. Even if it's not a freeze, it's a bit of it. He'll temporarily keep it in this nice little position. And Gragas might end up queuing the wave to make it a freeze. I don't know. But what's the problem here, guys? Because he hasn't got any vision out, if he had a pink, he wouldn't even have put the pink down, he said, was that he doesn't know where Gragas is. And he doesn't know where Gragas could be going top, could be going bot. He has no idea. And more importantly, he has no idea what side to lean onto. He doesn't know where side the jungler is going to be. He has no idea what side a fight's going to break out. He has no information on Gragas. So he doesn't know if Gragas has literally ditched the lane completely, in which he should probably start to shove out. Or you know, what is Gragas doing potentially? And with the pink as well, he could have actually defensively pinked one side, and which would actually help isolate the lane. Getting vision first is just a very good fundamental, a very good habit to get into, because it can be both used as a defensive and offensive tool. And now that he's got into lane here, it's so hard for Vlad to walk out and ward, especially when these junglers actually showed on mid. On top, sorry. Just a little thing. It didn't really change too much of the events in this game specifically, but it is something that I found to be very helpful. Now, this is where the game goes in a bit of a lull state. I did tell him here that I wouldn't really freeze at this point in time. Like, what I would do, if you really want to minimize, just keep the wave in the middle, purely because when you freeze at 7 minutes onwards, like Rift Herald's about to spawn, dragons are spawning, kills are going on the side lane, you want to minimize this Gragas' ability to affect fights, and if a skirmish does break out in the river, you want to get there relatively at the same time as Gragas. You don't want to allow Gragas to get to that fight way earlier than you. But anyway, Vlad kind of gets pumped here. He doesn't die, but he easily outsustains his lane. He heals up a little bit. He ends up recalling here. Gragas gets tempo. And I believe Gragas actually stays in lane, so Vlad has tempo, sorry. He actually buys a pink this time. So again, nothing too special here. We're just getting to the next juicy point in a minute. So he comes back, gets the wave out, beautiful, beautiful, gets the wave out, gets a nice bit of farm, leans out of vision, gets a nice pink ward, and gets a nice little trinket here as well. So he has one side to lean to. Beautiful, and that's the side he decided to that was winning trades. His Shen was winning trades. His Shen was 3-0, his strong side, and more importantly, Rift Herald is the next objective. Now, what happens next is absolutely essential, guys, so pay attention. I'm going to play it out, and then I'm going to rewind and point out what the key mistake was. And how I'm assuming if you guys do this, if you can fix this one problem, you're going to climb so much easier, I guarantee you. So, just standard laning, nothing too special so far. Vlad's starting to take some decent trades here. Actually pulls the E this time. Gets a nice Q on the back end. Beautiful. Starting to get some real decent trades off. Actually gets another nice Q off with the movement speed. I'm going to play this out. And then I'm going to go back. Alt. E. Ignite. Nearly gets a solo kill. Not too bad. Forces Gragas out of lane. Just play it out. Okay. You might say, not too bad, right? From your perspective, I nearly solo killed my laner, I got another kill on the jungler, I've got my Rift Herald. Not too bad, right? Wrong. Okay, let's go back. This is absolutely game-losing stuff, I'm telling you. First thing, what are we seeing? So top has built an insanely big wave, and look at Amumu. Amumu and Shen, there's a skirmish breaking out. Which is fine, he's in the middle of a skirmish, he doesn't really know. Right now is his opportunity, and what does he see? You listen to pings, and if he pans his camera, his jungle and his top lane are actually starting Rift Herald. So as a mid laner, your job is not to heavy trade mid right now. If you go for a heavy trade mid in this specific moment and trade, all your HP for all your HP, all that's going to be doing is you're just a nuisance for your jungler, because what actually happens if you're a jungler and the jungler is watching this video, when they're doing Rift Herald, the last thing they want to happen is a mid fight to break out, because it actually gives the enemy jungler an opportunity to influence that lane when they're busy doing Rift Herald. And then that can actually completely screw with the Rift Herald take. So your job as a mid laner in this situation is to pan your camera, know that they're doing Rift Herald, keep pressure mid, take a good trade if you can, but you know that you need to be ready to attend that Rift Herald fight if something breaks out, or if they're starting to posture. Get there before Gragas. And you want to hold your ultimate, your ignite, everything ideally, because a fight may break out. Your team is strong. You want to complement your team. Now, what happens here, he doesn't even know that his team's doing Rift Herald. He's tunneling on the 1v1. Uses his ult, ignites, everything. Very heavy trade. Nearly dies. Very low HP. And still, Aurelia and Graves are posturing on the Rift Herald. And now look how late he comes. And he's like, oh, wait, I should actually come now. Because of this, Amumu actually dies. They could have easily, potentially even bursted down the Rift Herald. Vlad actually has to use Flash for no reason to get the kill, when he probably wouldn't even have had to do that. And all that, so his jungler's now died twice, purely, in my opinion, because of Vlad not playing according to his jungler's location. And this is where people go to mistake. They look at this VOD, but what are you talking about? I win lane. I do well in my lane. I know how to win lane. I'm doing fine. I'm farming fine. I'm going to carry this game. I'm scaling. I'm winning lane as Vlad. This is not the case. There's all these little details that completely change the course of the game. Now, and when I was watching this, I was like, wow, this guy's landing, his wave manipulation, his micro is not that bad at all. He's definitely a platinum, could be potentially diamond player. But there must be something significantly going wrong with his gameplay. And it was starting to become very clear with me what this guy was missing into his gameplay. And it gets worse, guys, all right? And you may seem it's not a big deal, but trust me, every time your jungler dies for no reason, it's significantly decreasing your chances of winning the game. So he's in lane right now. He's got an incredible resource advantage over this Gragas. He has Rift Herald. And Vlad is a champion that can really utilize a lot of gold. So I told him, look at this. He's even zoning him from the creeps like this. He's understanding that the longer this laning phase goes, the better, because Gragas doesn't have TP. He's either going to take a poor recall, Vlad's going to be able to shove this in Rift Herald, get a bunch of gold, or Gragas is going to stay in the lane. He gets free farm, and he gets to do whatever he wants. He gets an unlimited amount of pressure. So he's doing a really good job here, zoning, CSing quite well, exerting a lot of pressure on the map. Unfortunately, this whole time though, if we play this out, I'll show you in a second. What do we see this whole time, though? Twitch is in River, spotted by Vayne. He hasn't panned his camera once. He hasn't even looked. He hasn't panned nothing. Pyke goes in. Pyke's fighting with the team. Amumu is now heading to the fight. Pyke's ulting, flash. Vayne's flashing, going. All these things are happening. Pyke's just survived. Shen's ulting in. Everyone's going. Then he hasn't panned his camera once. He has no idea what's going on. Amumu's now fighting with the team. Then eventually pans his camera. He's like, oh, okay, the fight's over. Now, look at that, guys. Now, who knows what actually could... And look at actually what's funny to top off this skirmish as well. The funniest thing is that Amumu was pathing, and then Amumu goes to that fight. I'm just looking at the minimap here, guys. Shen ults in. I believe Graves comes into the fight over the Dragon Wall in a second. Or even walks into River, you'll see. Graves walks into River. Gets caught, and then actually just walks out. Graves just walks out and just survives. So that was a kill missed. And a big opportunity missed purely because he just didn't pan his camera. Wasn't assessing what was going on in the map. The same thing, guys. Like, your job as a mid laner, yes, it's great to isolate this 1v1. It's great. That's step one. And let's just say you pan the camera, you see it's a bad fight. At least you're taking into account that information to make the correct play. At this point, without panning on camera or assessing what's going on in the side lanes, you have no idea what the best... There could be a way more valuable play right now. They could all be walking up river, walking into you for a collapse play. Now, this is a big problem I see with a lot of players in Platinum. All they're thinking about is the 1v1. They're thinking about the lane. They're not thinking about how they can translate their leads. They're not thinking about everyone else on the map. They're not thinking about how they can ward for the rest of their team. They're not thinking about just all these overall map awareness. And that's what I said in my VOD review video, guys, was Platinum is about, that's just when you start to think about more overarching concepts in the game, where you start to consider roaming and teammate awareness. This is where it really comes into play. And I was spot on with my video, without a bit of a humble brag there. But again, it's the same thing. It's like these players, they're great at laning, but they need to take their game to the next level. And so anyway, this Vlad is very far ahead, got a lot of gold, gets 2 plates here. Beautiful. Now, what do we know, guys? Gets 3 plates, actually. Really, really fed. 2,328 gold. Beautiful. Now, Dragon is coming up in about 30-40 seconds. This Amumu, he has 2,400 gold. His Amumu's based. His Pike's just come out of base as well. He's got his ultimate up. His Ignite's coming up in 30 seconds. This is his time to carry. The ball is in his court. It's go time right now. Go time. So you want to be timing your bases with your jungler, ideally to exert pressure on the map at the exact same time. You want to spend your gold, and you want to be ideally coming back to lane, pushing out the lane before Dragon spawning, so you can get push on the lane, walk into river, exert control, and allow your team to get that free objective. And again, you're Vlad. You want to fight around objectives. And again, it really depends on what champion you play, but because we're talking about Vlad here, Vlad is a champion that wants to fight around objectives. And especially once you got the Proto Belt Fiendish Codex spike that this guy has. Now, what happens, he does a greedy recall where he doesn't walk around the side of the lane, doesn't go behind the wall, gets his base stopped, sticks in the lane, his jungle now recalls, gets traded on, takes a very poor trade, loses all of that pressure that he once had. Now, his bot lane's getting shoved under tower. His Shen's quite strong. I don't know if he has TP or not, though. Now, he gets solo killed because he overstayed in the lane. Just because he had gold doesn't mean you're strong. Gold doesn't mean anything until you spend it. Keep that in mind, guys. Now, look what happens. Because he dies here, Amumu goes for a play. And Amumu was actually pinging the dragon the entire time. Now, a whole dragon fight pans out. A team fight pans out where he would have been there, he would have had pressure on Gragas, he would have been to this fight, he could have potentially cleaned up, he'd have his Proto Belt, ultimate ignites, beautiful. Now Vayne is actually getting double, or I think he has a double kill there, maybe. No, Graves gets a double kill, Vayne gets a kill, and then they actually get Dragon on the back end. All because he wasn't thinking about his jungler's location, wasn't thinking about the next objective, wasn't thinking when he needed to be at that fight, and now look at that. Absolutely massive, game-changing stuff, guys. Think about that in terms of an alternate reality. He just gets this base off, maybe sacrifices a wave in lane. Who cares? Gragas gets a wave. He gets to spend his 2,400 gold. He's going to come back, get pressure on Gragas, be there for that dragon fight. Actually, get shove on the wave, be there. The enemy have to give that dragon 100%. And it's a completely different game. It's in a different alternate universe. This guy actually wins LP, gets LP this game, literally. And it's not about the 1v1. Yes, he got solo kill, whatever, but it's more about the lack of thought about the rest of the map, a lack of thought about where he needs to be, a lack of thought about his jungler's recalling, a lack of thought about where he wants to fight on the map given his Vlad. All of these little details add up. And he comes back to lane. And now and then the last thing, there's actually one more absolutely crucial point to drill in for you guys. I think you guys will get a lot of value from. So he comes back to lane. He starts to take somewhat decent trades in lane. Really, really nice stuff here. He's zoning, walking past the wave. Beautiful Proto Belt into a powered Q. You can tell he's laning. He understands his champion identity. He really understands how to take decent trades in lane. His CSing's not too bad. His wave management's not too bad. Getting some really nice, solid trades off. But what do we see here? I'll actually play it out first, and then we'll go back. So beautiful trading, dodges the ult, or the other guy just misses it. Mistimes his W, but he still gets the kill here. Beautiful, walks past. You know, oh, jungle difference, they're killing me mid. But what do we see? Amumu actually just ganked bot and actually got a double kill bot. Now, I want to talk about one of the most important concepts in League of Legends, okay? Brace yourself, all right? Get a notepad, pen and pen, or just listen to me. Again, I said this before, if there's one thing you're going to take from my content, guys, this will be it. There's a concept that one of the best players I ever coached, his name was Cupcake. He was a support player. Probably up there with Schönfire and Cupcake being the two best players I've ever coached. This guy was actually a tennis player. He played tennis at a semi-professional level in college in America. Now, he had the concept where he called small wins. And I loved it. It's called small wins. And what I mean by small wins is a small win is any form of small advantage. And it's a mindset of taking, you know what, and a perfect example of a small win would be in lane where you take 10% of their HP, but then you lose 0. And then the next trade, you take another 10%, you lose 0. And then again, 10%, 0. Small win. These are called small win trades or small short trades, burst trades, whatever, 100 to 0 trades, whatever. The mindset behind it is small wins. I'm so patient and so calculated that I will take the guaranteed trades over time, leading to a massive advantage where I can actually deny bigger objectives down the line, whether I can deny a whole wave or get a whole plate for myself because I'm playing very patiently. Now, in this situation, most players' mindset, especially when they play champions like Vlad, Diana, Echo, any of these champions, their mindset is big win. I only want to play for the one shot. I want to go in, solo kill, go, go, go. But what do we see here? He's playing decently small trades here where he's zoning past the wave, taking some really nice trades. But from the enemy jungler's perspective, imagine being Graves and seeing this situation. Well, if Graves comes mid at this point, what is he going to do? Gragas can't set up ganks with a Vlad who actually has W proto belt. He's so fed. You're not going to kill this Vlad. He has 40% CDR. And then, so what is Graves going to do? Well, he can't do anything. He can't really walk into river because Vlad's going to get to the fight first. Vlad should have been got a pink, but he actually doesn't have a pink. He should be moving his pink onto bot side of the river. What Vlad should be doing right now, and imagine how annoying it would be for Graves if Vlad just pushed this wave in, forced Gragas under tower with 40% HP, held on to ignite an ultimate, got a deep ward on the Raptors, put a pink in the river, and just isolated this 1v1. Graves is going to be like, well, I can't walk into bot river because Vlad's going to get there first. I can't even gank Vlad, so I can't even help Gragas. I don't know what to do. What's going to happen eventually is that Vlad is going to, not only if a river skirmish breaks out, he's going to get there every single time. He's going to know and spot out Graves for the entire team, so everyone's going to know where Graves is. But more importantly, he's eventually just going to either deny a bunch of CS to this Gragas, get the tower slowly 1v1, and just create so much threat, so much pressure on the entire map and the entire game. Now, what he does instead goes for 100 to 0 solo kill dive under the tower with no thought about where the junglers were, what his jungler was doing, and just trades 1 for 1. Now, if we were to go back in time and with the slow, much more calculated small wins mindset, he's going to see, okay, my jungler's looking for a bot gank. They're very pushed up bot. All I need to do is isolate the 1v1, maybe get some deep vision, hover into the bot river. So if an extended skirmish does break out, I might be able to get there. Maybe spot out Graves, scare Graves, force him that he can't go into river, deny vision if there's any pinks in river, clear all those wards, make Graves' life a living hell. Now, in this position, Vlad's not considering that Amumu's going for a kill. And what we said before, guys, when your jungler is making a play on one side, you shouldn't be looking for a big, heavy 100 to 0 dive under the tower, unless, a kill's a kill. If you can get the kill and get out, it's completely fine. But in these very close, risky dives, with no vision, no information about the enemy jungler, this is not calculated. He's just doing this because he feels he needs to compensate, or he's just tunneling on the 1v1. So for me, this was absolutely massive. And what I said before, it's like this Rift Herald situation when the enemy his jungler was doing Rift Herald, he was creating opportunities for the enemy jungler by heavy trading mid. And now Graves is like, oh, cool. I had nothing to do. My bot lane was going to die to a gank. I couldn't gank the Vlad. I couldn't even walk into river properly. I was going to lose bot scuttle. I didn't know what to do. Now, cool. I just get a free kill. I get to shove out the wave and I get to prevent the game from booming. All because Vlad went for this crazy solo kill dive, wasn't thinking about his jungler's location, wasn't thinking about small wins mindset, wasn't thinking about how he could use his wards to help his team, wasn't thinking about how he could slowly deny Gragas XP, gold, get the first tower by himself, boom the game. He felt like he needed to do something special to win the game. Now, and when I watched it, and this is when I ended the coaching session, I told him, mate, for me, your landing's great. Your wave management's great. You know how to all in really well. Mechanically, you're completely fine. Your CSing might need a little bit of work, but that's something that we can come with time. Largely, your biggest problem is literally awareness of your own team's location, and specifically your jungler's location. So for him, I said, your number one learning objective, bind your jungler, pan your jungle to the camera to the jungler to T. And what I want you to do is every single game, at every point, I want you to be aware of your jungler's location. Because like I say all the time, your jungler's location dictates your next move. If you know your jungler's looking for a gank bot, you shouldn't be diving bot and looking to trade 1v1. If your jungler's doing Rift Herald, you shouldn't be looking to dive and play for a crazy solo kill. Push the wave in, exert pressure, go to the fight, guarantee the Rift Herald, then come back. Then you can play like a psycho once you've got vision control and go for that solo kill dive. And yes, I want you guys to push your limits, but in context, with knowing the appropriate amount of information. So, and the small wins mindset. The small wins mindset is a very beautiful mindset, and especially if you're a player that plays scaling champions. If you play Anivia, Vlad, Victor, Cassio, Azir, Orianna, any of those champions, small wins mindset is just the way to go, honestly. And I want you to try it, internalize it, break down some of the things you saw in this VOD and what I was trying to really get across. I tried not to cover the Vlad specific things for the sake of showing this coaching session, but more the things that I was trying to get across in terms of awareness of teammates and how much that can actually change the course of the game. And I thought this was a beautiful VOD for showing that. So let me know, guys, if you want to see more of this. I really think that there's a lot of you guys are probably doing the exact same thing. Go over your VODs. You go back over my VOD reviewing video as well. Use both of these resources to level up your game, guys. You can make the climb to Diamond Master Tier with this information. I guarantee you, right, guys? And just to give you a heads up, I'm still working on the Syndra guide. That should be out in a few days. So I'm really excited for that one and appreciate all the support, and especially for you guys who are part of the Patreon. Really appreciate it. Cheers.